Hey, folks, welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast. Just getting live here, and actually, we don't have Brian with us, and Brian is our special guest co-host today. Uh, so, not sure where Brian is. He went dark on me, but I already had the event scheduled, so got to keep the party alive. So we're gonna see if Brian pops in here. If he does, great. If he doesn't, well, we'll figure out a plan B. Not sure what's happened here. Anyway, while we just hang out, if you'd like to ask any questions, I just did a ask me anything shop talk yesterday, but I'm just chilling. No, not you, Brian Eastridge. I'm looking for Brian with an I, McLaughlin. So yeah, what's what is floating everybody's boats these days? What's got your fancy? Anybody see anything cool as far as products, guns, anything from SHOT Show, anything from the coverage that we did at SHOT Show? I'm in camo today. Yeah, yeah. So actually, yeah, this is kind of like the I had the black version of this shirt, and recently I picked up the white version, and I thought, it's kind of the tropical, theme, and it's cold and white outside, so I'm countering the coldness with some tropicalness. The PSA Jackal. You know what? I didn't really see that one. Hang on, I gotta look that up again. I think I know what it is. I think I know what you're talking about. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. The 300 blackout. Yeah. That thing's pretty cool. I dig. I didn't really check it out though in person. In fact, I made it by the Palmetto State Armory booth mainly to check out the PS9 dagger, I guess they call it, the little Glock copy handgun. So Ben says he's excited. Sig said they'd be selling a 365 XL that's compliant in his state. I don't remember hearing anything like that, but I don't typically ask those questions either. Like, hey, when are you going to have a Massachusetts legal one or a California legal one or whatever it is? I don't know. All that stuff's a bunch of bull honky anyway. Elkie saying cracked slides on the new Glock 44. I hadn't heard about cracked slides. I know I saw a video of the extractor just shooting out of it, uh, which is, discouraging, obviously. Cami says on YouTube here, can't decide between the P17 or the TX22. Well, um, if you want something that's a little bit more like other guns out there, like if you want something that feels a little bit more familiar, the TX22 is where it's at. The P17 is a little bit cheaper, I believe. And the P17 is also great and it has a great trigger, but it's definitely its own unique platform. Now it does come with really nice sights, fiber optic sights. Um, it's lightweight, has pretty high capacity. So the TX22 is not bad either. Obviously, they're both. I think the TX22 is 15 rounds and the P17 is 17. Um, yeah, I mean, kind of just what you want. I mean, if you want a nice, inexpensive but really fun shooting 22 pistol, the P17 is great. If you want something that has a chance of fitting in other holsters out there for existing guns, or that also just sort of feels more like a normal pistol, then the TX22 is probably where it's at. The Glock 44 would be great. Obviously, hearing about some potential issues with the Glock 44 platform. So, yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out. Let's see. Was your favorite new rifle coming out? Rifles? Okay, so actually, I didn't get a chance to actually shoot it, which is my big regret. But it just wasn't enough time in the event that we attended with Sig Sauer a couple weeks back, their media day. But the new bolt action cross rifle would probably be, as far. I mean, I laid my hands on it, I saw it, I held it, I cycled the bolt, pressed the trigger, that sort of thing. It's a nice rifle. And I'm really intrigued by that 277 SIG round, 6.8 millimeter. Really intrigued. I'd like to see that develop a little bit more, and I'd like to get my hands on one. And I'll tell you, if it looks like that might be around to stay, as far as that caliber, I'd be really intrigued. I mean, the ballistics on are just insane. If you missed my episode with Daniel Horner where we talk about that, go back. I think it's episode 386. Yeah, that thing is awesome. So yeah, I'd have to say that would be my favorite. Now I did shoot something else that's a little bit more, what's the word? More of a novelty, but was really, really fun to shoot. I should put up a video sometime of me shooting that. But there's this 475 Bishop, and it's shot out of an AR-10 sized platform, but it's a 390 grain 475 caliber projectile, and shot it at 1,000 yards. That thing was awesome. Is it practical? I don't know. I guess it depends if you want to shoot big game with a really hard, heavy hitting load. But I mean, but a fairly small platform. I mean, for what it is, you don't typically see rifles chambered in something that big that fits in an AR-10 sized platform. It does have a pretty beastie barrel. It's kind of heavy, but I think the whole rifle was 12 pounds, 14 pounds maybe. That's not bad. So anyway, that was kind of cool. Let's see. I'm still trying to get a hold of Brian. Yeah, I don't know. We were communicating earlier, so maybe something came up. You never know. Hopefully he's doing okay. Yep, no Brian, no messages. So I'll just keep this going a little bit longer, and if we have to reschedule, we'll reschedule. It is what it is. Let's see other questions. Let's see. Suggestion. My wife. So this is a suggestion, not a question. Oh, it does have a question in it. My wife is looking to get into concealed carry. She said my 365 is too snappy for her, but she liked the size. I was going to look into a 380 for her. What do you suggest? Needs a safety on it. Okay. Well, so. Oh man, it's so hard when we start talking about recoil impulse, snappiness, and all this stuff, right? Like, because it varies from gun to gun, right? And obviously with different rounds and stuff, but like the 365, is it snappy? Yeah, I think it's only fair to describe it as snappy, but I think it's a good kind of snappy, if that makes sense. Now, with good grip mechanics, it's extremely controllable. Like, and here's the thing: when a gun cycles really quickly, which the 365 does, then it snaps back so fast and goes back into battery so quickly that it can be actually difficult to perceive much as far as the actual recoil energy that's hitting your hand and your body. So I actually kind of think that, like, snappy but kind of a light snappy, which I would describe the 365 as, is a good thing. Snappy that's also really, like say like a 10 millimeter in a relatively small platform, it would be really snappy, but it would be like a painful snappy. You know what I mean? Shooting a 357 Magnum out of a 38 is really snappy and really fast, but it's also it has a lot of energy too in it. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, I definitely think you need to spend some time with your wife, and probably it'd be wise for you to sign her up for a good shooting class with a reputable instructor nearby, because that might go a little bit more successfully for her and for you. I actually am blessed and privileged in that my wife trusts me and works well with me. I think I work pretty well with her when I teach her, but that's usually not the case. That's usually not good advice to say, hey, husbands, and typically because it's usually the guys that are more into the shooting thing, and so they're usually the ones that are sort of bringing their spouses or their partners into it. Usually it doesn't work very well to have a husband or a boyfriend teaching, their wives or girlfriends. But in my case, I'm able to do that pretty well with my wife. Now, my wife's not super into guns and shooting and stuff. She thinks it's kind of cool when we go shooting together. It doesn't happen as much as I would like it to happen. But I guess what I'm saying is sign up your wife for a class, but also give her the opportunity to shoot some different guns. Get her what she needs is time on the trigger, and whether that's with a 22, like that's great. All right. And just getting her time on the trigger will be really helpful to her. And then maybe building her up to, say a 380, which 380s can also be pretty snappy. A 380 and an LC, like the challenge with 380s, there's not a lot of good sized gun platforms chambered in 380. A lot of the 380s, at least in the modern, day here, they're quite small, so they can be maybe not quite as heavy in their recoil, but they can still be quite snappy. So like an LCP, LCP2, some of the Tauruses out there, and things like that. Probably one of the better shooting 380s that I actually own. One of these is the Bursa Thunder 380 Plus model. The Plus is the double stack version. It's a little bit of a more bulky gun. It's got more of a frame to it than the standard 380 model, and so that's actually a pretty decent shooting little gun. And not terribly expensive either. But the reality is, I think it was Ben that asked this question, is that, oh, yeah, and I forget about the 380 EZ. That probably actually would not be a bad platform for her to shoot and to try. Yeah, that would probably not be a bad idea. I forget about the 380 EZ. I'll be honest, I haven't really spent a lot of time with it in my hands. It's not like it's not in my wheelhouse, and I'm not thinking about it that often, so I forget about it. The thing about the 380Z is it's probably a really great gun to learn on. It's probably not a bad gun to consider carrying, although it's not the most compact carry gun for at least those that where size is a little bit of an issue as far as how they're carrying and where they're carrying. That 380Z is not a small gun. Like the Bursta 380 Thunder Plus I mentioned is smaller than that 380 EZ. MMP. So point is your wife needs more trigger time, and I think that she should spend some time with a good instructor, getting some of that trigger time and learning the mechanics of shooting. Because I promise you, she may not think this, and she can definitely handle that 9mm. She definitely can handle a 365, because I can point you to a lot of other ladies out there that handle and shoot that very well. But it's for her, it's more of a psychological thing of she needs to get, she needs to work herself up to that, and the way to do that is get that trigger time. So yeah, maybe go get a 380Z. I think that probably will be a good gun for her. But honestly, just getting some trigger time on a 22 will probably be just as good for her as well for a time. As you're working her way up. So anyway, let's see. Still checking to see if I got any messages from Brian. I'm not seeing anything. Man, I hope he's okay. Could have been something to come up with his kids. I know that here in the Denver area, like school schedules are all screwed up because we got some snow yesterday and last night. My kids are on a delayed school schedule today, and so it could have totally messed up with his schedule as well. Let's see. Tris wants to know where I got this shirt. This is a 511 tactical shirt. I think this is Life's a Breach is what the shirt's called. 511 tactical, buddy. Let's see. Carrie. Oh, okay. So Cam, that's a good point, Cammy. To her point, she asked earlier about P17 or TX22. I mean, the P17 is still going to feel probably rather foreign to you, but to your point that you carry an HK, which has that paddle release, so that P17 will be similar in terms of that mag release. But honestly, mag releases are not the most important thing in the world where it comes to shooting a gun and operating a gun and getting practice on a gun. I'll be honest, unless reloads is important to you, but in the grand scheme of things, reloads aren't typically all that important. So, but if that's important to you, then that's actually a fair point as to why maybe the P17 over the TX22. But again, the P17 is just its own unique little animal. It's fun. It's cool. I mean, I intend to have one hopefully soon. Chad's supposedly sending me one. He's been sending one for a while. I had one in my hands for about 5 minutes a few months ago. It turns out that they realized that there was a problem with a component in the gun, and so they had to quickly do some redesign work. So there was a little bit of a hiccup in getting that P17 actually fully released. They're actually in production now, so those P17s are starting to roll out the doors. But I had one in my hands for about 5 minutes, but that was after I'd got an email from Caltech saying, "Sorry, Riley, but we need you to send that back because there's a problem with with the gun." You know what? And that's cool. At the time, there was only like 5 of them that existed, and I was privileged I was privileged to get one of them, and I was going to be testing it and shooting it and reviewing it. But fortunately, that's why you do testing and development, and they realized there was a problem, so they went back to the drawing board with a couple of things and got it fixed. And the one we shot at range day seemed to shoot very well, and looked like it was very reliable considering it was seeing a lot of rounds fired through them. Very dirty, so yeah, looks like a winner. Just it's a different, it's not going to feel like anything else out there that you own, except for maybe some of the Caltech pistols. Just because like the grip and stuff is very similar. It's very Caltech like. Trey says he thinks most of the issues with the G44 is people trying to shoot it like a center fired pistol. Rim fired are a lot different, especially the extractor. Well, I don't know quite what you mean by that, Trey, as far as like people are trying to shoot it like a center fired gun. Like, I don't know, to me, whether it's a rim fire 22 or a 9mm center fire, I don't know, do you shoot a rim fire 22 differently? I don't know. I can't say that I do necessarily. I don't know. Can you expound on that thought, Trey? I'm curious to hear what you're getting at there. Let's see. Yeah, tons of people here recommending 380 easy. Riley is an idiot. He forgot it even exists. So the David, the cross bolt rifle from SIG, modified 300 Win Mag that SIG is coming out with, that 277 cartridge. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a modified 300 Win Mag. It is its own unique cartridge. It may have a parent case, but the thing is, it's a hybrid case, right? So it's basically a brass case with a steel head on it, and so it's definitely a unique case. But now to your point about 300 Win Mag, I think we talked about that in Daniel Horner's podcast, and that 277 Fury is generating a lot more pressure than a 300 Win Mag cartridge does, which is a very high, it's a magnum pressure round, a 300 Win Mag. Well, this 277 SIG Fury is like almost 20,000 PSI more in pressure, but they've been able to engineer things and engineer this round to be able to handle that. The rifle obviously handles it, and so you're able to push a bullet faster, in terms of, that caliber and that weight of a bullet, you're able to push it a lot faster than anything else out there so far, because anything else is probably in the 55,000 PSI range, and this thing's operating at 80,000 plus. It's a big difference. More pressure means bullet goes faster. So the technology and how they've developed this hybrid case technology is really, really quite unique and remarkable. Let's see. Bob says he's ready for Mountain Man Medical's free trauma care summit starting on Thursday. It feels like Bob is advertising that for us. Thank you so much, Bob. SIG P238 is great to shoot. I don't necessarily disagree, Diane, but I do think it's still a bit on the snappy side. Glock 42, I think, is not bad again, but I have to like put things in my perspective. In my world, because I can, really manhandle a gun. Uh, there's a lot of things I don't necessarily think are snappy, but I think to certain shooters, um, newer shooters in particular, that it probably is still a little snappy. I mean, and that's the problem when someone says, "Well, it's snappy." Well, define snappy. What does that mean to you? It's probably different for every person, right? So it's a difficult thing to quantify. Cammy says 9 is easier than a 380 to her. Um, well, I, that may be, I suppose, but I think if you had a 380 chambered in the same platform, same gun basically as a 9mm version or equivalent of it's hard to say that a 380 would be harder to shoot than a 9 because it is going to be less recoil, it is going to be less snap. When all factors are equal, but again, to what I was saying earlier, a lot of your 380s are fairly small. JBM on YouTube says, "What's your opinion?" I guess I could be putting questions on the screen. I forget I have the option here. What's your opinion of the Glock 26 Gen 4 as a CCW? Thank you. It's a great gun. It's a Glock. It runs. It's small. Holds like 10 rounds, in its standard configuration. It meets all of the basic requirements of what I think a good compact concealed carry gun should be. It's reliable. It's got a track record of all of that. So, yeah, what's my thoughts? Thumbs up. Are there other options out there? Yeah. Are there other options out there that I like better? Yep. But Gen 4 Glock 26, it's a great gun. Knock yourself out, dude. I think if that's what you're going to carry, depending on how you carry it, you're probably going to be happy with it. Smaller equals more snappy. Bigger equals less snappy, generally speaking. Ghost, what do you think about the PS9 Dagger? I think it's intriguing that PSA is making a gun, a Glock, essentially, that is sub $300. They're going to probably sell boatloads of them. It's pretty remarkable now that, Glock's patent on the Gen 3 has run out. You see all these companies popping out making basically Gen 3 version Glocks. And, I mean, the world is going gangbusters with all these Glock options out there. And you know what? It's a tried and proven system as far as the gun goes. As long as their manufacturing processes and tolerances and everything are what they should be, then I anticipate that these will be successful platforms. They just give us more options, and that's cool. And it's actually really cool with kind of these sort of this new crop of sort of, it's hard to classify them because they're basically building Glocks, but they are their own unique version of them, right? As far as their own, these are, in the case of Palmetto State Armory, in case of Shadow Systems, which I did a video interview at SHOT Show with, in the case of a few others out there doing similar things, they're actually working, like Nomad makes a Glock frame, but it's a completely unique to Nomad Glock frame. Shadow Systems doing the same thing. PSA doing the same thing. And in some cases, these guys are cutting their own slides and making their own barrels for these things. They're not even actually using Glock parts and just modifying them. They're actually, because it's cheaper for them to just CNC mill their own. So the possibilities are endless, and I don't think we've seen the last of it. So really, what I think you're seeing in the firearms manufacturing world is I think SIG is starting to really take a lot of market share out of your big players, and I think Glock is losing some ground there. I think Smith & Wesson has lost some ground in a lot of areas as well. SIG is sort of becoming dominant, so we're starting to see a lot more of these P320, P365 platforms. But then what you're seeing is sort of this alter, market, like this other market out there that, these various players that are all building stuff based around the Glock platform, but they're all different and unique in kind of their own various ways. It's kind of cool. I mean, just more options, and more options is more gooder. And in the case of Palmetto State Armory, I mean, $299 for what should be a tried and proven platform. As long as PSA doesn't screw something up in its manufacturing, it'll probably be really great. Ben asks, do you guys have Patreon or any subscription? For every year I've been listening to your podcast on my way to work. I'm looking for a way to support. Man, Ben, I love you, dude. You are freaking awesome. So we don't do Patreon. We made that decision a long time ago. We're not interested in being a part of anybody else's platform and charging people for content or even pushing people to do that. Except in one instance, and that is with our Guardian Nation membership. So, Ben, really that's the way. If you feel like you want to support us, the cool thing is you get a lot of benefits by being a Guardian Nation member, and it does support us, and we appreciate it. So if you want to learn more, go to guardiannation.com, and you can get signed up. And that if that's, if you'd like to give back, that'd be very much appreciated. So guardiannation.com is where you can learn more. Trying to run a meltdown on a rimfire can more damage, especially to the extractor, than a centerfire gun. I think some of the people that are doing reviews either running it too hard or taking it apart and messing up reassembling it. Okay, so again, I guess I see what you're saying. I mean, definitely so you got that one video of the dude where his extractor just blows out of the gun, and I mean he's running it, pop, 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 running like basically a mag dump on a steel plate, and he looks impressive. He's shooting really well, whatever, and all of a sudden the extractor blows out of the gun. I still think it's unacceptable that you could say, well, this 22, especially from Glock of all companies, isn't meant to be run hard. Well, define run hard. Does that mean I can't shoot faster than certain splits? Like I can't shoot faster than .20 splits? Does that mean I shouldn't expect to be able to shoot 500 rounds through it in a single range session? Yeah, either way, what these things that are happening with the Glock 44 are unacceptable. I don't think the platform should be limited just because it's a 22. There's certainly other 22. I mean, I got a Ruger Mark III that I can shoot the balls off that thing, and and the Ruger platform has been around a long time. It's a proven design. So. I just think Glock has some things they need to work out. Now, certainly, someone taking it apart and messing things up with reassembling it, that's legit, And there's certainly, I mean, if you don't get the extractor depressor plunger, that bit, that spring that basically holds pressure against the extractor on a Glock, and to me, it looks like the design of the extractor, as far as how it interfaces with that extractor depressor plunger. To me, it looks like that part is very similar, very much the same as any other Glock. So if you do take things apart and you don't get that installed quite correctly, then yeah, I mean, your extractor can just pop right out of there. So that's a possibility. I suspect in some of these cases, though, these people aren't taking the gun completely apart down to that level, to basically an armor level. Like taking apart the extractor depressor plunger, all that stuff, that's considered armor level work, technically. It's not hard, but anyway. Diane says the 938 is very snappy, not the 238. I mean, comparatively, yeah, that's true. What would you recommend for a lefty for concealed carry? Same stuff that I recommend to righties, if you're talking about guns. If you're talking about holsters, your options are more limited, but I'd still recommend a lot of the same quality manufacturers out there. Keeper's Concealment, for instance, Henry's Holsters, Dark Star Gear, JM Custom Kydex, Filster. Okay, now I don't keep tabs on everybody all the time as far as whether they're all making lefty holsters for all the different models they offer, or if they're in stock or whatever. I don't keep tabs on that because I'm not a lefty. But I believe all those guys make holsters for lefties, and they're all quality manufacturers. So, yes. But if you're talking about guns, I don't know. I would actually say, though, for you lefties, and I know that some of you might say, well, hey, that's not really fair because you're not a lefty, so it's not fair for you to judge us or tell us to do things a certain way. But I definitely think that there's probably something to be said of you just getting used to running the mag release on your pistols with your index finger as opposed to your thumb, like the righties are able to do. I also think that it's worth you being familiar with how to work a slide lock with your index finger. it takes a little bit of practice, but it's not necessarily hard to do. Maybe on certain platforms might be more difficult than others, but like a Glock, I've tested this. I've done this. I demonstrate in class sometimes where I show you, look, I can run my Glock completely lefty, even the non Gen 5, right? Gen 5's got the ambidextrous slide lock and or slide stop in Glock terms technically. And so, but I can show you, even on Gen 4, Gen 3, hit the mag release with the index finger, and all you got to do on a Glock and most other similar pistols is you as you're trying to lock the slide back, you just slide your finger up the side of the gun, and then you hit that slide stop, and you slide it into position. Takes a little bit of practice, but you can do it. The advantage there is you basically train yourself to be platform averse. Like there's no platform, like you don't have any training routines or habits or training scars that are specific to platforms. You can probably pick up just about any gun and shoot it and know how to work the controls relatively well. And that's the advantage. I know you're a lefty in a right-handed world. That's just the way it is, unfortunately for you. So figure out how to I think develop your shooting skills and your gun handling in such a way that it's not really specific to a particular gun or a platform. So if you feel like you want to reverse a mag catch or something like that, okay, that's fine. But again, I think you'd probably be better served in the long run, or if you ever just have to pick up some random gun, whatever it is. I mean, definitely if you're a law enforcement officer, I think LEOs should definitely just learn to run their guns with their index fingers, because they never, it's a lot more of a real possibility that an LEO, a law enforcement officer with a partner that's right-handed, could end up having to pick up his partner's gun or be handed a partner's gun, and it's set up for a righty, right? And so, yeah, I think that in a LE context, I think learning how to compensate with that left hand is a good plan. Well, I think we're going to end up having to reschedule this interview with Brian. Really kind of worried that he's, no response to texts or phone calls or my Hangouts messages to him. I will address these last few questions here, and then we're going to sign on out of here, and I will get this rescheduled. Maybe later this afternoon, maybe tomorrow. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes things happen, in all of our lives. Paul asks, what do you think about the P365 or the P210? Well, Paul, you can go read my review about the P365. I wrote over a year ago. It's pretty in-depth, very detailed, and very simple. Link you can find for that is concealedcarry.com/P365 review. And that'll tell you all you want to know about my thoughts on the P365. So I'm going to go ahead and just send that comment out, and then I can put that up on my screen, and now you can see that. Look at that. That's fancy. So I think it's a great gun. I like it. I've shot it a bunch. I've carried it. I'm carrying a 365 XL right now as I speak. So I'm a fan. It's a great platform. Now, there have been some problems. Yes. Do you want to, I think, run if you buy a P365 or an XL, do you want to go to the range and run at least 500, maybe 1,000 rounds through it, including hollow points, and verify functionality, verify that it's reliable, all of that? Yeah, I think you want to do that, just like you want to do with any other gun. And if you can get through certainly 1,000 rounds, 500 would be an absolute bare minimum, I would suggest. And I say this about any gun platform, to be honest with you. But, if you run it and you find it to be reliable, I think you're probably in pretty good shape. I think that most of the problems that have been out there and are well documented probably surface relatively early on. Now, there's definitely those examples out there where they shot 2,000, 3,000 rounds, and then they start having some sort of problem. That's definitely a possibility, but I think most of the big problems, particularly the ones that you really ought to be concerned about, are going to surface fairly early on. About the P210. P210 is a beautiful gun. Such a beautiful shooting gun. I love the P210. I'd like to own one. Maybe one day I will. But when you're talking about a gun that is capable, these modern ones are capable of 1-inch groups at 50 yards. That's like unheard of in semi-automatic pistol land. So yeah, it's a great gun. Old school for sure, single stack, 8 rounds, whatever. But very, very, very cool gun. Ruger LC9. I had one. I've had an LC9 and an LC9S. The LC9S was far better than the LC9, but P365 blows an LC9 out of the water. It's not even a close race. I think, and I think that I think LC9s can be, and LC9Ss for that matter, or EC9s, all are a little bit more finicky with ammo, a little bit less. Like if you look at the totality of the data that's available out there and people's experiences, I think that platform is a little bit less reliable than I would like it to be. I got to where I didn't really trust my LC9S, so away it went. All right. So, but I mean, some people like them, and if yours runs reliably, you find a load that works consistently with yours, okay, knock yourself out. I would advise you stay away from the EC9 version because it's a cheaper version of the LC9 and LC9S with crappier sights. I mean, like everything about the EC9, like they took already marginally acceptable things on the LC9 series and made it crappier and cheaper. I don't really get it. Have I heard about Minuteman ammo? I have not, so no opinion. More gooder. It's a very technical descriptor. Definitely not taking the side of Glock. Definitely their fault. I mean, stuff happens, P365 has had issues. In the early days of the M&P Shield, they had some issues. They had a major recall on the 380 EZ from Smith & Wesson. The Glock 42 and Glock 43 and the Gen 4 Glocks had some, minor growing pains as well. Stuff like this happens, it'll get sorted out. Next Guardian box comes out this month. Good stuff going to be in the Guardian. So speaking of Guardian Nation membership, somebody, Ben, I think was asking about, there you go. Ben's right there commenting to answering Cammy's question on YouTube. Yes. So the next Guardian Nation members box comes out in February. Now, here's the deal, Ben. So I hope that it makes sense on the website as you're reading it. Like, let's say you join Guardian Nation today. You're not getting the February box, unfortunately. Sorry to say. The problem there is we ship out in excess of $120, and usually it's like $150, $160 worth of gear in each box. We would have people join for 1 month, give us $38.45, get their box, in February or May or August or November, and then they just cancel the membership, and we would lose money every time. So that's not a very good business plan. So we have to have that qualifier where you got to be a Guardian Nation member for the preceding 3 months, or you're a quarterly paying member, or you're an annually paying member. The cutoff for, because we have to obviously have a cutoff for when we actually count everybody that's getting a box. And as we finalize quantities of the items that are going in those boxes, that cutoff is January 31st for February. And so I can't say that if you joined Guardian Nation today at a quarterly or annual level that you get the next box. That's not going to happen because you missed the cutoff. So we've already ordered all the product. It's already in our warehouse, that sort of thing. But if somebody joined on January 30th at the annual or quarterly level, then they would get the February box. All right. Because they've already given us, a quarter or an annual's amount of membership fees or dues. So, but the monthly thing, you got to be for the preceding 3 months a member, and then you qualify for the box. So that would mean you're a member all the way. You joined at some point during November, and you were paying member still through December and January, and then you qualify in February. That's how the box works. And yes, here in the next week, actually in about 2 weeks, those boxes will be shipped out. So very exciting. Sean says he uses the TX22 a lot, 1,500 rounds in the last 30 days. That's a lot. Good job. That's a beautiful thing with 22, though. Hard shooting on even a filthy gun with very few issues. 1 or 2 failure to extract and light strikes. Basic 22 long rifle issues. And we have to expect that sort of thing. Failures to extract and rounds that just don't go bang. I mean, it's not even the gun's fault a lot of times. Like he described it as light strike. It's more of a there's a problem in the primer compound in the rim of that 22 shell. I'm sure Sean understands that, but anyway, yeah, typical 22 long rifle stuff. Any hints on what's in the box? Cammy, I've got my brain going crazy on so many things right now on various projects that I honestly can't remember what's in the box. Yeah, I'd have to go. We have we have a document where we, plan out all the boxes. I'd have to go reference that right now. I just honestly can't remember. There's too much going on. So sorry I can't answer that question right now, or I'd give you at least a hint. Okay, one hint. It's gonna be good. All right. Well, that's enough AMA for 2 days now in a row. Guys, stay tuned. Watch your notifications. We'll get the episode with Brian rescheduled, and we'll get it back up. And yeah, so I'm hoping it'll still be today, but at this point, it could end up being tomorrow. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here with me and putting up with the antics. Appreciate you guys. Take care.